So Apple just updated the iPad Pro again, this time with the M5 chipset. No event, no flashy keynote, just a quiet website refresh to what's already the most powerful tablet on the market. And as you can probably guess, this is one of those updates where you look at the spec sheet, nods, and then go, yeah, cool, but what's actually new? And that's kind of the story here, because while the M5 iPad Pro does bring some legitimate performance and efficiency upgrades, Apple hasn't changed anything about the design. The 2025 iPad Pro looks and feels identical to the 2024 model, which to be fair was a massive redesign, but still, if you're hoping for a visual cue that screams new model, you won't find it here. Before we get into benchmarks and battery life, let's set the scene, because this is still, without question, one of the most beautiful pieces of hardware Apple makes. Apple's 2024 redesign gave the iPad Pro a huge aesthetic leap forwards. It became the thinnest and lightest device Apple ever made, and in 2025 that still holds true. The 13-inch model is a mind-bending 5.1mm thin, while the 11-inch sits at 5.3mm. Both are ridiculously light and with that precision milled aluminium chassis available in either silver or space black. Personally, I'm team silver, but I did try out the space black model for review, and it looks stunning, though as always, it does love a good fingerprint. The design itself feels like the ultimate evolution of Apple's industrial minimalism: flat sides, perfectly rounded edges, and that all-screen OLED front with the thinnest bezels we've ever seen on the iPads. There's no home button, obviously, and the true depth camera now sits on the longer edge, making it ideal for Face ID in landscape modes. Honestly, I still can't get over how thin this thing is. You'd expect some flex or give when you pick it up, but no, it's rigid premium and somehow still manages to pack in a 10-hour battery. Every time I hold it, I think, this feels more like a display than a tablet. Speaking of displays, this is the showpiece. Apple calls it the Ultra Retina XDR, and it uses what's known as tandem OLED technology. In simple terms, that means two OLED panels stacked together, working in sync to deliver higher brightness, better uniformity, and insane contrast control. Apple says it's the world's most advanced display, and while that's classic Apple marketing, it's not entirely wrong. Both the 11-inch and 13-inch feature this panel with resolutions of 2420 by 1668 and 2752 by 2064 respectively, both at 264 pixels per inch. The contrast ratio sits at 2 million to 1, and SDR brightness now reaches 1000 nits with 1600 nits peak for HDR content. Whether you're editing HDR video, retouching photos, or just watching Netflix, it's a joy to use. And yes, the 120Hz ProMotion is still here, adaptive between 10Hz and 120Hz, with full P3 wide color and true tone. If you want that matte nanotexture option, it's available on the higher end configurations. It's subtle, but it does make reflections way less distracting if you're working under bright lights. But the cheap option is to just get a paper-like screen protector. They're not sponsored, but they do a pretty good job with reducing the glare for those opting for the base model, like the one I have here. The display alone makes the iPad Pro the dream device for creative professionals, whether you're sketching, grading, or just showing off HDR content. It's genuinely in a class of its own. Now let's talk about that new M5 chip, the real reason this refresh exists in the first place. Apple's latest silicon brings a lot of under-the-hood refinement, even if you won't see it right away. Built on TSMC's 3nm process, the M5 delivers better power efficiency and raw horsepower. The base model features a 9-core CPU, a 10-core GPU, and 12 gigs of unified memory. Step up to the 1TB or 2TB models, and you get a 10-core CPU and 16 gigs of RAM. You also get a faster neural engine with 16 cores. There is also now a neural accelerator in each core of the GPU for better AI performance, an upgraded media engine with full ProRes encode decode, and next-gen hardware accelerator ray tracing and mesh shading support. That's a lot of jargon, I know, but essentially, if you're doing 3D modeling or working on apps that use complex rendering, or you use local LLMs, this chip does give you a noticeable edge. In benchmarks, the M5 offers around 15% faster CPU performance and about 30% better GPU performance compared to the M4. That's significant, but not revolutionary. Most people won't notice that in daily usage. Safari, Notability, Netflix, they're all gonna feel exactly the same. But if you're the kind of user pushing this iPad to its creative limits, like video editing in LumaFusion or doing design work in DaVinci Resolve, you'll appreciate the smoother performance and also efficiency. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this breakdown so far, do me a quick favor guys, tap the subscribe button, tap the hype button. It helps a small channel like mine reach more people, and it's honestly the best way to support what I do here. Thank you. Connectivity also gets a solid upgrade this year. The M5 features the N1 networking chip, which brings Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and third support. That means faster data speeds, lower latency for accessories, and better smart home integration if you're using it around the home. There's also the C1X modem for 5G models, offering up to 50% faster connectivity on the move. Realistically, most won't notice huge differences unless they're downloading massive files, but still, it's nice to have a bit of future-proofing. The single Thunderbolt Type-C port remains, capable of 40 gigs per second transfer speeds. The new iPad Pro also adds the ability to drive external displays at up to 120Hz, and now supports adaptive sync, which provides the lowest possible latency in external display performance. Honestly, I wish Apple would just give us a second port though, especially on the larger model. Having one port feels limiting, especially if you're going to use it for both charging and accessories. I know you get a charging port with the Magic Keyboard, but the actual iPads should have another port. Now the cameras. The front camera is positioned on the long edge, so when you're using a Magic Keyboard, your FaceTime calls look natural just like they did on the M4. It's a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor with center stage, and it works brilliantly. On the back, you've got a single 12 megapixel wide camera with a LiDAR scanner for AR experiences. It's the same setup as last year. It's fine for scanning documents or taking quick photos, but no one's buying an iPad to use as their main camera. Audio quality remains excellent though. 4-speaker setup, spatial audio support, and surprisingly deep bass for something this thin. Mics are also great. Apple continues to sell the M5 iPad Pro as a part of their wider ecosystem, and that's where the accessories come in. It's compatible with the Magic Keyboard, which brought a much larger glass trackpad, new aluminium palm rest, and a proper row of function keys. It transforms the iPad into a mini laptop, and it's genuinely the best typing experience you can get on the iPad today. Then there's the Apple Pencil Pro, introduced last year as well, which remains a creative powerhouse. It features a new squeeze gesture, barrel roll support for shading, haptic feedback, and it even works with Find My. When combined with that OLED display, it's an artist's dream, and it's definitely the best stylus for this iPad as well. Battery life remains at the familiar 10-hour mark, which has basically been Apple's line for every iPad since forever. You'll still comfortably get through a full day of work or creative use without reaching for the charger, though if you do need a top up, the new iPad Pro does support fast charging, giving you 50% to charge in 30 minutes with a 40-watt adapter. So yes, the one that comes in the box doesn't support fast charging, but at least you get a brick in most countries, because here in Europe and the UK, we don't even get that. Storage starts at 256 gigs and goes up to 2 terabytes if you're feeling extravagant. The 256 and 512 gig models get 12 gigs of RAM, while the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte options bump that up to 16 gigs as I mentioned earlier, and storage speeds are 2 times faster. Combine that with the higher memory bandwidth, and transferring files off drives are fast on the M5. Pricing starts at $999 for the 11-inch and $1299 for the 13-inch, which in the UK translates to £999 and £1,299 respectively. That's before you even add the Pencil and Magic Keyboards, so you're easily looking at well over $1,600 for a fully kitted out setup. So should you upgrade? That is the big question. Well, here's the honest truth, guys. No, you probably shouldn't. The M5 iPad Pro is an incredible device, but it's also one of those refinement updates that's aimed at enthusiasts, not everyday users. If you already own the M4 iPad Pro, you're not missing out on anything game-changing in my opinion. The design is identical, the display is the same, and unless your workflow involves pushing the GPU to its absolute limit, the M5's extra performance won't change your experience. Even for those on the M1 and M2, if your iPad still works for you, then by all means keep using it. In fact, if you decide to upgrade to the M5, you'll have to shell out for new accessories as well, so the upgrade won't be cheap, guys. That's why if you're currently in the market for a new iPad, I'd say get the M4 iPad Pro. It's almost identical in every way, just cheaper. I saw a 512GB iPad Pro 11-inch for £799 refurbished in the UK the other day. That's hundreds less, and remember those savings can be put towards accessories. You still get the same OLED display, same accessories, same form factor, and the performance difference won't matter to 95% of consumers. iPadOS 26 also brought huge multitasking changes, which make the iPad feel more like a Mac than ever, but do remember that none of the features are exclusive to the M5. It'll work just as fine on the M4 and even older or less powerful iPads. Now some in the comments already probably typing, but Saran, you're wrong, the M5 is a massive upgrade. And look, I get it. If you're an enthusiast who needs the absolute best, and you know exactly why those hardware upgrades matter to your workflow, then by all means, it's your money, you're gonna love it, but most iPad Pro owners simply won't notice a difference. Not everyone who buys the iPad Pro are enthusiasts pushing their tablets to limits. I know plenty of students who go for the iPad Pro purely for the design and display, and for them this isn't a must-have. you'll get far better value sticking to the M4. So my final verdict, the M5 iPad Pro is a phenomenal piece of hardware that proves Apple's dominance in tablet design and performance, but it's not an essential upgrade. It's refinement, not revolution. If you want the best tablet in the world, this is still it, but if you already own one of the last few models, save your money, enjoy what you have, and wait for a large update. And for everyone else who's in the market for a new iPad, I would just get the M4. Either way, I'll leave links down below to both the M4 and the M5 iPad Pro. And hey, if you found this review helpful, don't forget to subscribe and hit the hype button. It really helps a small channel like mine grow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.